Millionaire CEO is stunned when a black delivery man solves the impossible warehouse crisis. Marcus Steele's breath hitched. His eyes darted across the vast sea of steel and crates. Endless rows of warehouses stretching like a concrete jungle just outside Chicago. The late afternoon sky was bruised with dark clouds, the wind rattling the loading docks like a warning. A hum of machines mixed with the uneasy whispers of workers, tense voices cracking under the weight of disaster. Something was breaking down, and Marcus could feel it deep in his chest. His official image? A flawless titan of industry. No sweat, no blinks, absolute control. But here, now, standing tense in his tailored suit, the cold gnawed at his nerves. Each ticking second was a jab to his gut. Vital shipments, meds, food supplies, tech parts were stuck. Trucks parked idle, engines choked, waiting on a window opening that might never come. The forecast wasn't helping. A brutal cold front was barreling in fast. Ice, snow, the kind of storm that could freeze delivery routes and freeze his empire in place. Voices rose and fell in panicked cadence. If we don't move the cargo by midnight, thousands will be stranded. A supervisor's clenched jaw trembled. Clients already calling could lose millions. Eyes flicked toward Marcus, expecting a miracle. And then he saw him. Darnell, just a delivery man, carried no uniform but a worn jacket and a cap pulled low, shadowing his face. The kind you'd pass on the street without a second glance. But something was different. The way Darnell moved, quiet, steady, a calm that cut through the chaos. His eyes scanned the scene, sharp and curious, like a chess player spotting a missed move. Marcus's pulse just jumped a beat faster, chest tightening as he watched Darnell glide between furious calls and frozen routes. The man's hands swept over blueprints and shipment logs, then paused. An idea sparked, a tiny flash that made Marcus lean in, hungry for hope. Darnell's voice emerged, quiet but firm. Maybe there's a way. These routes, they don't all freeze. And we can reroute with smaller vehicles, deliver in shifts. His suggestion was almost too simple, too obvious. Yet it set off a ripple, a crack in the wall of despair. Workers stopped, heads tilted. The air thickened. Could this unassuming guy really hold the key to unraveling their nightmare? Marcus swallowed hard. The tightness in his throat was bitter, electric. He wanted to nod, to jump on this spark, but doubt gnawed like a wild beast. What if it blew up? What if Darnell's plan was just another pipe dream, a detour to disaster? Then, just as the hope began to build, a strange sound ripped through the center. A screech of tires. A crash shattered calm. Phones buzzed non-stop. A security alarm flared. Marcus's heart hammered like a war drum. The nightmare wasn't finished yet. He turned to Darnell, eyes sharp, breath shallow. What else are you not telling me? The delivery man's calm gaze met his, almost daring. The storm outside wasn't the only danger coming. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And while you're there, drop a powerful like. It really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Darnell's gaze was unwavering, but underneath it all, Marcus sensed a storm brewing. The tension crackled in the air around them, heavy enough to choke on. "What else are you not telling me?" Marcus pressed, urgency flooding his voice. Darnell's mouth twitched, a hint of a smile playing at the edges, yet it didn't quite reach his eyes. "If we are going to use the smaller vehicles, we'll need someone who knows the shortcuts, and someone who can't be traced," he replied, his tone loaded with implications. "It's not just about rerouting. There are risks." Before Marcus could respond, the sound of sirens blared from nearby, piercing the thick tension. The ground trembled as a convoy of police cars screeched into the parking lot, lights flashing like a malfunctioning disco ball. Panic erupted. Workers scattered, unease washing over the scene like a tidal wave. In that chaos, something shifted in Darnell. He stood taller, eyes narrowing with steely determination. "I have a contact who can help us maneuver. Hidden paths we can take, but we need to trust each other." Completely. Marcus hesitated, caught between the storm outside and the revelation unfurling before him. "Trust?" he echoed, skepticism threading through his voice. How could he place his faith in someone wielding an unassuming veneer? Darnell took a step closer. "I'm not just a delivery man, Marcus. I've been in the game longer than you know." The confession hung between them like a gaping chasm. "I grew up on the streets, hustling just to get by. This industry, it's not just business. It's survival." The wind howled like a banshee, tossing grit into the air. Marcus's heart thundered in his chest as he caught Darnell's intent gaze. "What do you mean?" His pulse quickened. Darnell was revealing parts of a life that could topple empires. Not just their companies, but the very way Marcus perceived stability itself. Before Darnell could respond, the crash resonated again, this time louder, more thunderous. It wasn't an ordinary accident. It reverberated with intention. Marcus spun around, his mind racing as a group of men, clad in dark jackets, stormed past the loading docks. Faces obscured, they marched with purpose, and panic birthed formal chaos. "Code Red! Code Red!" rang a voice over the intercom, urgency crackling through the system. Panic cascaded among the workers. More than just fighting now. They were about to learn that the danger was rooted in their very foundation. Marcus turned back to Darnell, a new fear gripping him. "What haven't you told me? Are they after?" In that heartbeat, the piece fell into place. Darnell wasn't just a bystander. "My past," he said, lowering his voice. "I left it behind, but it didn't leave me. These men, they know me. They're here for something I took with me when I left. Marcus's mind reeled as the implications washed over him like ice water. Betrayal? Blackmail? The world he had built crackled with instability, each foundation stone shifting beneath him. "What did you take?" he breathed, echoes of disbelief tainting each syllable. The men were closer now, urgency palpable as they surged into the heart of the warehouse, hunting for something or someone. Darnell's eyes softened, filled with regret and something deeper. A secret that could ruin everything you've built. The words landed like bricks on Marcus's chest. A flicker of resolve ignited within Marcus. "We need to move, now!" But as they turned, the chaos erupted. Screams punctured the air. A gunshot rang out, and in the flash of confusion and dread, Marcus realized survival would cost more than he ever imagined. The storm was not only brewing outside, it had begun within, and he was about to be swept away. The gunshot rang out, slicing through the air like a knife. Time slowed as Marcus's heart raced, pounding in his ears, drowning out the screams that erupted around him. Chaos erupted, disorienting in its intensity. Workers scrambled for cover, eyes wide with terror. Darnell's face hardened, eyes scanning the approaching thugs, the weight of hidden gems in their presence. "Move!" Darnell shouted, urgency slicing through the fear. But where to go? Their options narrowed as the men advanced, malicious intent written across their faces. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him. His empire, his entire life hung in the balance. "Which way?" he yelled over the din, but Darnell seemed focused, locked onto something through the chaos. A familiar certainty resonated within him, an instinct ignited by the fear closing in. But it wasn't fear he was chasing. A shattered glass pane suddenly flew from the building's break room, followed by a gasp from the crowd. The men halted. Marcus caught a glimpse of what froze them. A shadow darting between crates, small, nimble, something they hadn't anticipated. A child. "Stay down!" Darnell cried, and as if on cue, the child darted into view. A face he recognized, all wide eyes and innocence. Anika, the name, slipped from his lips in horror. A sliver of ice slicing through his gut. "Darnell!" she called, confusion trailing behind her. "Help!" The sight struck Marcus like a fist. Darnell's world, and now his, intertwined with a thread he hadn't foreseen. "Get her out of here," Marcus barked. But Darnell stood frozen, entranced by the desperate need lingering in Anika's gaze. "She shouldn't be here. Get her out." Suddenly, a figure stepped forward, a silhouette emerging from the shadows behind the thugs. Marcus squinted, recognition freezing his breath in his throat. It was Marcus's right-hand man, Victor, a trusted confidant. Victor's face twisted, a mix of regret and cunning as he called out to Darnell, a mocking smirk shifting across his lips. "Didn't think I'd find you here, Darnell. Fancy meeting you where it all began." "Victor, what are you doing?" Marcus's voice emerged, strained, the edge of betrayal slicing through the din. Victor's laugh echoed, sharp and cold, as he gestured to his thugs, closing the net around Darnell. You see, Marcus, it's not just about lost shipments anymore. This isn't about the future. It's about the past and the secrets we buried. Darnell here never left the game. He just played it better than you. Marcus blinked, reality twisting in on itself. What are you talking about? Expectation turned rotten. Vulnerability gnawed away at any control he thought he had. Victor stepped closer to Darnell, their faces inches apart. You thought he was just some delivery guy, right? The guardian angel? But he's cooperating with us, feeding information right to my door, he said, his eyes glinting. I arranged all of this, ensured the packages were at risk. That's how I knew you'd come to him for help. You're onto something big, and I've orchestrated it perfectly. The blow landed hard, knocking the breath from Marcus's lungs. Darnell, the calm in the storm, had been a harbinger of chaos. No, this isn't true. Darnell's expression crackled with anguish as the truth unleashed itself like a wild beast. There's a lot you don't know, my friend, Victor taunted, enjoying the unraveling. The winds howled outside, a cruel echo of the storm brewing within them. Darnell's gaze turned frantic, searching Marcus's face for understanding, for care. All Marcus could feel was the magnitude of betrayal coiling itself around his heart. Anika, take her! Darnell shouted suddenly. But before any action could be taken, the thugs lunged, pulling him back. Shadows swallowing the light he used to emit. With the world shifting beneath their feet, Marcus grappled with the impending collapse of everything he believed. The storm was not only outside, it was here, within. And as the last threads of loyalty snapped, he realized Darnell wasn't just a player in this game. He was the wild card. In that moment, as the shocking betrayal coiled tighter around him, Marcus understood one truth. Trust had shattered like glass, breaking, and survival would demand every ounce of his resolve to forge a way through the D. Everything he knew had fractured, leaving only questions burning like embers in the air. What would he do in a world where everyone wore a mask? Who truly stood beside him? And what would he risk to uncover the truth before it consumed him utterly? The gunshot had barely faded when the air shifted, thick and suffocating. Panic flooded through the crowd, a visceral ripple that caught everyone off guard. Marcus's heart raced wildly, each beat drowning out the clamoring chaos. Darnell stood frozen, eyes locked on Victor, desperation brewing underneath the surface of his calm exterior. There was an unspoken bond unraveling between them, the taste of betrayal hanging heavy in the air like smog. Don't listen to him, Marcus. I'm not working for them. I'm here to help. Darnell's voice shook under the weight of urgency, but Marcus could already feel the seeds of doubt planting themselves deep within him. Did he even really know this man? That thought thrummed in his mind as Victor's smirk widened, adrenaline pushing him onward. You really thought you could build your empire on the shifting sands of trust, didn't you? How naive. He gestured toward the approaching thugs, their faces masks of eagerness, shadows creeping closer with each heartbeat. But as the atmosphere reached a fevered pitch, the door at the far end of the warehouse erupted open, slamming against the wall with a crashing thunder. Glass shattered, and a cascade of snow and ice stormed in with a wild wind that howled like a banshee. A figure dressed in a tactical suit burst through the threshold, a whirlwind of precision and fury, eyes glinting with purpose. "Federal agents, hands where I can see them." The authoritative shout rang out, cutting through the frenetic atmosphere like a hot knife. Workers halted mid-scream, confusion intertwining with terror. Marcus's pulse quickened. A new player had entered the fray. In a split second, the scene erupted into chaos again. The thugs, cornered, wheeled around, muscles tensing. The federal agents moved with precision, arms outstretched, ready to act. Bullets flew, splintering crates into shards of timber. Darnell darted closer to Marcus, fear crackling in the air around them. "This is it. We have to move, now." But Marcus stood paralyzed, caught in a cacophony of shouting and gunfire. Questions swirled. Were these agents here to save them, or to betray them too? The chaos consumed the air as cops swarmed, disabling thugs in a flurry of action. "Darnell!" Marcus shouted, just as the delivery man punched through a nearby exit. "What are you doing?" The answer came not in words, but in stark revelation. Darnell wasn't just a delivery man. He grabbed Marcus's arm, and in that instant, everything shifted. "You need to know the truth, my real name." Before Marcus could respond, he was yanked through the exit, stumbling behind Darnell. They hit the alley behind the warehouse, a chill bitter enough to sting. "What are you talking about?" Marcus gasped, urgency thrumming like a broken string through his thoughts. Darnell hesitated, eyes darting, registering the chaos they escaped. And then he blurted, "My name isn't Darnell, it's Elias Beckett. They're not here because of me. They're after you, Marcus." The confession hung between them, a weight heavier than the impending storm. Marcus's breath caught in his throat as words exploded into fragments. "What? Why? Why me?" Anika, still hovering in the shadows, wide-eyed and terrified, blinked back tears. "Is this true? Who are you?" she whimpered, every word laced with fear that echoed their reality. "I was undercover." Elias, no, Darnell, said, voice low, rife with that unspeakable vulnerability. "I infiltrated the very people planning your demise. They've been coming for you. Your secrets, your empire, it's all connected." The weight of the revelation settled like icy fingers on Marcus's spine, drawing a flicker of despair. Victor's betrayal had set a chain in motion, one that was deeper, darker, more sinister than he had ever imagined. But why now? Just as panic threatened to spiral beyond control, a blinding flash shot from the warehouse. An explosion, a fiery plume of color erupted, debris showering the tarmac. They were out of time. "Marcus!" Elias shouted, pulling him back as the shockwave knocked them off balance. We need to run. This is far from over. The world spiraled. Trust shattered. Alliances fractured. Everything he thought he understood had crumbled with one confounding secret. The storm outside echoed the tempest within. What have I done? He murmured, scrambling to grasp at the crumbling pieces of his empire. But as a surge of figures rushed toward the fiery chaos, Marcus realized that survival now meant embracing the unknown and facing a truth darker than he could fathom. What lay ahead would test not just his strength, but the very foundations of everything he believed about loyalty, love, and who he really was. The shockwave had barely subsided when chaos erupted around them. The frigid air was tinged with smoke, and the harsh sounds of sirens drowned out their frantic breaths. Marcus's heart raced as Elias, Darnell, pulled him deeper into the shadows of the alley. Anika clenched. He shouted, the urgency in his voice sharp enough to slice through the tension. But every instinct screamed at Marcus to question. The newfound revelation churned in his mind. You were undercover? Why didn't you tell me sooner? He gasped, disbelief mingling with the terror of the moment. Elias turned, agony flickering across his features like a candle's flame in a storm. I was trying to protect you, Marcus. Trust me, my intentions were never to betray. But something in his eyes, hollowed and trembling, made Marcus's gut twist. Was he just a pawn in a larger game? An unwitting player in an elaborate setup? Before either could respond, another explosion rattled the ground. A fiery plume, dancing dangerously close as they stumbled further into the shadows. A split-second silence hung in the air, broken only by the echo of hurried footsteps. Shouts erupted from agents and startled workers alike, fracturing the moment into disarray. In the chaos, a flicker caught Marcus's eye. From the opposite end of the alley, he caught a glimpse of Victor, still lurking. His smirk twisted in satisfaction. You think you can escape this, Marcus? He called, voice dripping with malice. You're in way deeper than you realize. Anika's wide eyes darted between Elias and Victor, confusion morphing into dread. What's going on? She whispered, fear intertwining with innocence. But before answers could form, a new noise sliced through the tension. A low growl that morphed into a deafening roar. Out of the darkness, a black SUV tore into view, tires screeching against the asphalt before coming to an abrupt halt. The door swung open, and a figure emerged, silhouetted against the blazing explosion behind them. This silhouette was unmistakable. It was Marcus's estranged brother, Jacob. Marcus! Jacob's voice crackled in the midst of chaos like a short circuit. Get in! We need to leave, now! Stunned, Marcus's mind raced back to their last fight. A maelstrom of anger, accusations, and broken promises. Jacob was supposed to be out of his life forever. What was he doing here? As the echoes of the past collided with the fury of the present, Jacob's eyes locked onto Elias with an intensity that nearly brought Marcus to his knees. You brought him here? Heat surged through Jacob's voice, each syllable punctuated with disbelief and a trace of old wounds. "You don't understand who he is, Marcus." "Who he is?" Marcus shouted back, raw with confusion. "He's been trying to help." But doubt crept in, gnawing at him. "What are you talking about?" He stepped closer, feeling the air thicken. Both Elias and Jacob poised like opposing forces in a storm. Elias shifted slightly, his guarded expression melting into something raw. "Whatever happened between you two isn't the issue right now. Your lives are on the line." "Is that what you told everyone?" Jacob shot back, stepping towards Elias in fury. "You're after him just as much as they are. Marcus, can't you see? He's playing you." The weight of Jacob's words struck like a fist to Marcus's gut, and just like that, the fragile illusion cracked. Everything spiraled into darkness as Jacob's phone, pulled from his pocket, buzzed violently in his hand. He held it up, a live feed displaying evidence, sealed envelopes, smuggled goods connected to a man on the run. "Look, he's the tip of the iceberg. The underworld connects to you both." Marcus's breath hitched. The avalanche of truths cascaded around him, threatening to bury him alive. "What secrets have you been hiding, Elias?" he asked, voice trembling. The answer, hanging heavy in the air, shattered the stillness that had taken hold. The final breath of his own fragile empire whispered rumors of betrayal. A far deeper conspiracy that tugged viciously at the very essence of trust and loyalty. And as Elias's eyes shifted between them, betraying something ancient and hurt, Marcus knew one thing. The storm had only begun to brew, and the worst was yet to come. What lay ahead would test every shred of who they were. There were too many layers yet to peel back, and time was running out. The air crackled with tension, each breath thick with a mix of fear and suspicion. Marcus's heart hammered as he stared into the face of his brother Jacob, the bitter past swirling to the surface, tinged with a visceral sense of betrayal. Elias, no, Darnell, stood present, a tempest of conflicting loyalties battling in his eyes. Truth was a fragile line, threatening to break with every accusation hurled. "Marcus, you don't understand," Jacob spat, frustration coiling in the air. "He's playing a game only he can win. He's not a friend, he's a foe." "Stop," Marcus interjected, his voice a bare whisper against the backdrop of chaos. The noise roared around them, but a strange silence enveloped his mind. Anika clutched at him, her small fingers trembling, grounding him in this spiraling storm. But the betrayal crackled like static between them. Elias rose to the challenge, stepping forward, the shadows framing him like a warrior ready for battle. "I'm not your enemy, Marcus. You need to trust me." His voice reverberated with an intensity that pushed back against Jacob's weighty accusations. "The truth is," but just as he began, the ground beneath them trembled violently, a shock wave that rattled their very core. The SUV rocked as a massive explosion echoed from within the warehouse. This time, not just a blinding flash, but a violent rush of air that pulled at their clothing, the heat blistering against their skin. They stumbled back, barely grasping their surroundings. What should have been chaos took on a chilling stillness for Marcus. He squinted through the dust and shrapnel as he rose from the asphalt, disoriented but instinctively grabbing Anika tighter. He looked back just in time to see Victor, a smear of blood, trailing down his arm where shrapnel had pierced him, his face twisted in a grimace of pain and wild silence. Victor's voice rang out, a mocking echo in the sudden quiet. Secrets untold, bloodlines unseen. Marcus's heart sank as a new landscape of betrayal unfolded. Victor was tethering the chaos together, the puppet master. "What did you do?" he called, his voice filled with fury and growing dread. But before Victor could reply, the rear door of the SUV swung open, and a woman stepped out, a flash of familiarity piercing through the haze. She moved with an unsettling grace, her features illuminated for just— "No, it can't be." Marcus stumbled backward, the ground swallowing him. "You're very much alive," she interrupted, her eyes glinting with a bizarre mix of remorse and amusement. "I've been working silently in the shadows, crafting not just business deals, but a legacy, one that includes both of you." Shock unfurled inside him, a tempest of emotions, joy, betrayal, rage battling within him. "But why? How could you?" His words faltered, crashing against the weight of truth. "You've been the one pulling the strings. I was tasked with ensuring that everything came back to a bell curve," Lila continued coolly, meeting both men's incredulous stares. "With Victor's plan, your empire, it all leads to you playing the ultimate part in this game. You were always destined for greatness, Marcus, but I needed control." The atmosphere thickened, a tangible layer of betrayal suffocating the air. The implications crashed down like a tidal wave. The very foundation of their family, their loyalties, everything they stood for, fractured like glass. "But your plan, your life, was built on lies," Jacob shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of revelation. "You made it all a deception." "Exactly," Leela replied, the corners of her mouth lifting, almost proud. "And now, it's time to make the choices that will secure our future. The true game begins now." The darkness of her eyes gleamed with sinister anticipation, an unsettling clarity settling within Marcus. Every trust unraveled at the seams. What would that future look like? Was loyalty just a mask as sirens approached? But before he could act, a sharp laughter rang out, a taunting melody reminding them of the gray area they now occupied. "What comes next will be revealed in layers," Leela said, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper. And at that moment, Marcus understood. The storm had only just begun to brew, and what lay ahead would change everything they thought they knew about family, power, and survival. The air crackled with tension as Leela's words settled like a shroud over them, obscuring everything Marcus had thought he understood about loyalty and family. The chaotic sounds of sirens and explosions blurred into a chilling background score, a reminder that danger loomed ever closer. He locked eyes with Jacob, who was visibly torn between disbelief and anger. Elias stood tense, every muscle coiled, ready to spring into action. But before It resonated from Jacob's phone, still gripped tightly in his hand. The screen flashed several colors, casting strange shadows on their faces, and a sudden apprehension gripped Marcus. "What's happening?" he shouted over the din. Jacob glanced down, a look of horror washing over him. It's a frequency we've been tracking. They must have activated it now." A blaring alarm erupted from the phone, a mechanical wail that echoed through the alley like a death knell. Marcus's heart raced. Something dark was unfolding. "Everyone get down!" Elias shouted, instinctively shielding Anika with his body. Marcus instinctively dropped low, eyes glued to Jacob. But Jacob didn't move. His fingers tapped wildly at the screen as sweat pooled on his brow. "It's transmitting a... No, it can't be." Panic split his voice. He stared at Lila, realization dawning, eyes widening with disbelief. "You." Suddenly, a surge of purple light detonated from the device, illuminating the alley and casting eerie shadows on their faces. The world around them flickered, and in that moment of surreal clarity, Marcus glimpsed something impossible. Lila had stepped back, but there was more than just confidence in her eyes. There was an ethereal glow, a raw energy that pulsated around her, as if she were conducting the very chaos around them. "Stop!" Marcus called out, electrified by the spectacle. But something in him... "I am not who you think I am," she declared, her voice shifting, deeper, more sinister, echoing with otherworldly authority. "Not just your sister." Marcus's breath stalled. "What are you talking about?" Fear coursed through him, mixing with a desperate need for answers. "I come from a lineage far older than you can imagine," she proclaimed, the very air around them vibrating with her voice. "We have been watchers, guardians of realms unseen. But now I claim my birthright, my legacy." "What?" Thoughts spun as if caught in a tempest, crashing together in confusion. The truth was unraveling, deeper and darker than he had ever anticipated. The world shimmered, distortions flickered before his eyes. "This world," she continued, perform shimmering, "it's meant to bend to my will. Your will, Jacob." "Me?" Jacob's voice trembled with disbelief, his features cracking under the weight of her revelation. "Yes, you carry the same blood, the same potential. Together we can dominate." Lila's eyes burned with fervor, a wicked light gleaming behind them. "The underworld is but the beginning. You, Marcus, were nothing but an obstacle." A pulse of revelation sliced through Marcus. The ground shifted beneath his feet, as all he had known collapsed. Fate had twisted grotesquely. "You used us!" he burst out, grief mixing with rage. "Used? No. I've awakened you both." Lila tossed her hair back, transforming the alley into a warped spectacle of colors and shadows, each flicker showcasing a darker truth beneath her facade. "This game is about more than survival. It's about control of realms." The shards of familial bonds fractured further, caught in the whirlpool of Lila's hidden reality. Panic seeped into Marcus's bones, prompting a desperate instinct to flee. But as the alley filled with a glowing mist, something flickered just beyond the edge of perception. A figure emerged, cloaked in shadows, eyes glinting with a predatory hunger. The pulse of anticipation gathered momentum, transforming the air into a cauldron of fear. "Nice of you to join us," Leela said with an unsettling smirk. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus shouted, fueled by disbelief. The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, twisted by malice. Victor, the architect of chaos, stood inside the electric haze, and in a chilling whisper, he answered, "Your true enemy." His smile twisted into something serpentine, and in that moment, Marcus understood. This was just the beginning. Everything he had built, every trust, every bond, threatened to collapse into an abyss of unspeakable horrors, and they were standing at the precipice. What lay ahead? A storm of families reunited, power shifts, hidden legacies, and unfathomable betrayals was barely comprehensible. The ground beneath them quaked, not just with impending danger, but the unmistakable reality that every moment had been orchestrated by forces far outside their control. With the darkness closing in and alliances fracturing beyond repair, Marcus braced himself for the tumultuous upheaval. Each breath stung like ice, the stakes higher than they had ever been. In the heart of chaos, destiny beckoned, and only time would reveal who would emerge from the ashes unscathed. The shadows twisted ominously, flickering like a live wire as Victor stepped into the charged atmosphere, his smile a predatory flash against the encroaching darkness. The tension in the alley thickened, suffocating, everyone poised at the brink of chaos. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest, a tangible echo of rising dread. "You truly thought you could escape this, didn't you?" Victor drawled, eyes glinting with malicious delight. "You've played right into my hands. But here's the kicker. The game isn't over yet." At that moment, a low hum reverberated from Jacob's phone, the eerie sound spiraling into an inescapable heartbeat. The glowing screen flickered ominously, bathing everyone in an electric glow. "What's happening?" Marcus shouted, confusion swirling in his gut. Before anyone could react, the light exploded from the device, enveloping them in a blinding radiance. A wave of heat surged through the alley, forcing Marcus to shield his eyes. And when the brilliance faded, the world had shifted once more, reality twisting painfully in its wake. "Surprise, Marcus," Leela's voice echoed, but it was different, deeper, resonating with a strange authority. The shadows slithered around her, responding to an unseen command, as her form began to shimmer, flickering between dimensions. "What are you?" Marcus breathed, fear threading through his disbelief. "Your salvation and your doom," she replied, her voice echoing almost as if it belonged to another. "The legacy you've built was merely the prelude to a grand play, one that spans realms and time." Elias, no, Darnell, was rooted in shock, and Marcus felt the rising tide of dread, promising a storm far beyond their worst fears. "You need to stop this," he shouted, breaking through the oscillating tension. Desperation clinging to his words like a lifeline. But Lila wasn't finished, her transformation reaching fever pitch. You thought you were playing with power, but you've unwittingly activated the elixir of true dominion. Each one of you, Jacob, Marcus, Elias, it's all connected. Your bloodlines trace back to forces ancient and powerful, infused with the essence of those who ruled before you. Before he could process the implications, a piercing sound sliced through the air. A man appeared, his form emerging from the shadows with chilling precision. "Enough!" he commanded, his presence almost electrifying. "Indra has awoken." In those words, a terrible clarity settled over the group, a sense of impending doom clinging to their skin. The newcomer was cloaked in darkness, a figure of authority that radiated dominance. Marcus's pulse quickened. "Indra?" Jacob echoed, bewildered. "Yes," the man replied, a glint of recognition flaring in his eyes. "The deity of storms and power, the rightful claimant to this legacy. All here are mere mortals, caught in a game far greater than you can fathom. But you, Jacob, you especially." The atmosphere thickened, limbs growing heavy with comprehension. The shadows coalesced around Lila, and suddenly she transformed into something unworldly. "You are the key. You were born of both worlds. You are the embodiment of power itself." The words struck Marcus like a blunt force. Jacob, his estranged brother, hidden in the folds of family drama, was linked to something monumental, something that could twist the very fabric of their existence. "What's happening?" Marcus demanded, realization crashing down like a tidal wave. "You can't be serious. I won't let this happen." But the air cracked with the tension of untold truths. The ground beneath their feet trembled, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling through him. Rage, betrayal, horror, and an unexpected pulse of hope. And just as Marcus reached to grasp Jacob's arm in a bid for solidarity, the truth blared louder than any bomb. "You weren't just a pawn, Marcus. You were a player all along." Vicious laughter erupted from Indra, a sound that wrapped around them like barbed wire. "Awaken, Marcus. You are destined for greatness. But you must choose," his voice drilled into the corners of Marcus's mind. In the midst of the chaos, the lines between ally and enemy blurred dangerously, and Marcus braced against a tidal wave of shocking revelations that blazed like wildfire. The storm within was just a prelude. What awaited after this awakening could tear them all apart. The future teetered on a knife's edge, each heartbeat punctuating the tension of what lay ahead. Would he bend to the will of destiny, or face the ultimate reckoning, threatening to unravel everything? The answer loomed, a burning question tainted with shadows that waited for his choice. The air throbbed with tension, each breath a calculated risk, as Marcus stood frozen, caught in the whirlwind of revelations. A storm brewed in Jacob's eyes, shaking the very foundations of their fragile trust. Lila's transformation glimmered ominously, casting shadows that danced on the crumbling walls around them. Doubt curled around Marcus like smoke, suffocating, blurring the lines between loyalty and betrayal. So this is what you... All this time, you were playing us against each other? For what? For some kind of power trip? You wouldn't understand, Marcus, she shot back, the echo of her previous femininity fading into something darker, more potent. The air thickened, the pulsating energy seeping into their minds, stirring ancient instincts long buried. But before she could retort, an unsettling shudder rippled through the ground beneath them. Gone was the electric tension of mere family drama. This was ancient, dark. The laughter of fate hung in the air, a harbinger of something unspeakable about to transpire. "Awaken!" Indra's voice boomed, resonating with authority that twisted the very fabric of reality, demanding every lingering shadow to bow. The shadows coiling around Leela pulsed like a heartbeat, dark tendrils of power wrapping around her, surging into the night. "Marcus!" Jacob shouted, the urgency slicing through the haze. "The legacy she speaks of, it's not just hers. It belongs to us all. It belongs to our bloodline." But before those words could sink in, Leela's form transformed once more, shimmering, oscillating between the corporeal and something ferociously divine. "Your destiny awaits," she declared, her voice now a haunting melody, promising both betrayal and revelation. But just then, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the alleys, sent chills racing down Marcus's spine. "What was that?" he gasped, glancing around, the urgency clawing at his heart. Anika, still close to Elias, shivered, eyes wide and glistening with fear. A new shadow emerged from the smoke, a silhouette curling against the show of power Leela projected. It was not the clientele they had faced before. It was someone familiar. Hollow eyes glinted through the obscurity as the figure stepped into the flickering light. It was Victor, now bleeding from multiple wounds. A triumphant smile smeared across his face, defying the chaos around him. "Did you really think I was just a pawn?" he taunted, laughter bubbling from his cracked lips. "I orchestrated every moment you've experienced. I embedded myself deep, disguised among your allies and enemies alike. And now," his voice dropped, thick with dark pleasure, "it's time for the ultimate reveal." The air thickened, crystallizing in a heartbeat. Then Victor raised his arms, and the energy flared, crackling with uncontrollable might. "You all have a choice to make." Ambition surged in his tone, mixing with the raw scent of gunpowder and smoke lingering in the air. Yet before he could unleash his plan, the shadows coalesced around Lila, making her appear grotesque, a hybrid creature of power and strife. "You think you can control this?" she hissed, fury boiling in the depths of her transformation. "You won't take this legacy from me, or my brothers." "Brothers!" Marcus gasped, shockwaves coursing through him. An unseen veil was lifting, revealing truths deeper than he ever imagined. And then, without warning, the ground beneath them bucked violently, cracking open like a gaping mouth ready to swallow them whole. In a blinding flash, a vortex of energy erupted from the fissure, spiraling darkly upward, and before Marcus could react, everything stretched and warped in one breath-stealing moment. "Run!" Jacob shouted instinctively, grabbing Anika. But just as they surged forward, another figure emerged from the maelstrom. A woman, ethereal yet terrifying, eyes glowing with a fierce, unsettling recognition. "Nariana!" Leela screamed, voice cracking as true horror flooded her features. "You shouldn't be here." The new entity stepped forward, an unbroken bond of strength coiling around her. "Oh, but I am, dear sister, and it seems it's time to pull back the veil. To unveil the truths you all deserve to know." As the swirling chaos deepened, each person swallowed by old scars began to converge, every confrontation leading to a breaking point. The revelation struck before them like lightning, a twisting tapestry unraveling under the weight of generations. Nothing would ever be the same. "Together," Mariana declared, "we'll rewrite what destiny has woven before you. But be warned, the price of awakening is steep." The storm outside roared, a fateful warning clashing with the inner turmoil, and in that instant, Marcus knew they were about to plunge into depths darker than he could ever fathom. Only time would tell who would survive the storm, not just of fate, but of blood. The chaos swirled around them like a tempest, a physical manifestation of the turmoil in their hearts. The shadows danced, flickering among the debris as Victor laughed menacingly, and Leela, no, Mariana, held a calculated glint in her eye. "Enough!" Jacob shouted, grounding them all with his voice. "This isn't the way!" He stepped forward, fists clenched, his face a mask of determination. "We're family. Whatever legacy we have, it's not worth our lives, not worth tearing us apart." Marcus felt something shift within him at Jacob's words. The weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders was now met with a flicker of hope. "He's right," he said, his voice gaining strength. "We can't let the past control us. We have to rise above this." Leela, no, Mariana looked at him, astonishment flickering across her darkened features. "You want to save the legacy? You truly think we can put this back together?" "Maybe we don't have to," Elias, who had stood quiet until now, said, finally interjected, steely resolve etched on his features. "Instead of fighting each other, let's fight together. Use our power to protect rather than destroy." His words hung in the air, a beacon of unity amidst the chaos. Victor's laughter turned to scorn. "You think this will end with a hug and a happy family photo? We've crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed." He took a step forward, but Marcus held his ground. "I have crossed those lines mostly because of you," he declared, voice steady. "I won't let fear dictate my choices anymore." Suddenly, the wall behind them trembled, a fracture that could swallow them whole if this continued. Mariana glanced around, sensing the change. "Then let's rewrite our story, together," she said, vulnerability breaking through the power she'd wielded. In that pivotal moment, a bond formed, a silent promise of new beginnings, a chance to right the wrongs. Confession mingled with relief, acceptance bathed in recognition. "We need to contain it," Jacob said, hurriedly tapping commands on his phone, the frequency dancing like a spell in his hands. "We fight together, or we lose everything." As they aligned, energy bolstered around them, swirling into a protective aura that pushed against Victor's twisted delight. "No!" he bellowed, fury igniting his features. But the alliance of siblings, of blood, was too powerful, too resolute. With one final decree, Jacob pressed a button, his heart racing. "Now, before we lose everything." Before Victor could respond, the vibration enveloped the air, shimmering outward, pushing the darkness back, erasing the chaos. The shadows writhed, fading into nothingness, as dawn's light broke through the cracks of night, illuminating them all. Silence settled over the alley, and for the first time, they breathed as one, heavy and relieved. The storm had passed, but it took something to reach this dawn. Marcus turned to his siblings, a soft smile creeping across his face. "Maybe we aren't just what we inherited. We can be more." Leela nodded, an understanding glimmering in her eyes. "Together, we'll create a new legacy, one forged in trust, not shadows." As Anika squeezed Marcus's hand, he felt the warmth of family, of hope. The past had been dark, but tomorrow shimmered with possibility. The moment passed, and with it, the weight of betrayal began to lift. They stepped into a new chapter, breathing in the fresh air, feeling free for the first time in a long while. But in the distance, shadows lingered, a soft whisper promising that stories aren't always over, just waiting for another chance to rise. And as they walked towards the future, Marcus caught a fleeting figure in the corner of his eye, a man cloaked in darkness, watching them from the shadows. It was a reminder that this was just the beginning of something far greater. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share this video right now with at least 5 friends who need to know how this ends. You must subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait another second to share.